Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing News.
The Biggest Lies in Boxing, Volume 1. And let's break it down. The first one comes from my brother, the Black Swordsman, and he states, one of the biggest lies in boxing is that Jermall Charlo was mandated to fight Canelo Alvarez at 160 pounds. You know, one of the biggest lies in boxing is that Canelo Alvarez ducked his mandatory opponent in Jermall Charlo. Now, the funny thing is, Canelo Alvarez was never mandated to fight Jermall Charlo by the WBC. That mandate never came down. And not only did that mandate never came down, you know, a lot of people try to make it seem like Canelo Alvarez was looking to duck and run from Jermall Charlo some kind of way, when literally in 2019, Canelo Alvarez offered Jermall Charlo to fight and he rejected the fight. So that debunks any and all narratives we already know. But let's keep it going. The next one comes from my brother Lawick, and he states Demetrius Andrade is being ducked by everyone, and he is the supposed boogeyman. Now, this is one of the biggest lies in boxing. He also goes on to say that he pulled out of the Jermall Charlo fight. He ducked Islandi Lara to fight a regular champ instead of the real champ, and he didn't want smoke with the prime Derevyanchenko as well. And look, all of those are facts. When you look at Demetrius Andrade's history, you've seen that he's, ducked Islandi Lara, the real champion, the super champion, to fight a paper champ in Jack Colque. You've seen that he pulled out of a Sergey Derevyanchenko fight. You see that he pulled out of a Jermall Charlo fight. And you see that he rejected any fight with David Benavidez simply because he didn't have a belt. But he was willing to fight a bunch of other guys who simply didn't have a belt. Make it make sense. See, at the end of the day, we know about Demetrius Doo-Doo Andrade, and that's the end of the day. This guy is not a boogeyman because you're pulling out of fights. That does not make you a boogeyman. And let's not also forget that Eddie Hearn, his promoter, the guy that he loves, the guy that he calls daddy, he's not a boogeyman because Eddie Hearn is not getting you fights. I mean, look at it like this. Eddie Hearn had, Danny Jacobs under Matchroom Boxing. Never got Demetrius Andrade to fight. Has, Gennady Golovkin under Matchroom Boxing. Never got Demetrius Andrade to fight. And, when it comes to Billy Joe Saunders, when that fight fell apart with Demetrius Andrade and Saunders, Demetrius Andrade begged for a Billy Joe Saunders fight. And yet, Eddie Hearn never actually got him that fight. So at the end of the day, the fact that Eddie Hearn is not getting you fights does not make you a boogeyman. The fact that you're pulling out of fights does not make you a boogeyman. It makes you the booty man because you're straight ass. But let's keep it going. And the next one comes from Francisco Chavez, and he states, one of the biggest lies in boxing is that Floyd Mayweather Jr. never ducked no one and never had a controversial win. And we already know those one of the biggest lies in boxing. Look at it like this. Floyd Mayweather was known as the TBE of ducking. This guy ducked Winky Wright, Antonio Margarito, Costa Zoo, the undefeated Miguel Cotto. He waited 7 years, and after Miguel Cotto was stopped twice, then he wanted to fight Miguel Cotto. See, at the end of the day, we know about Floyd Mayweather. He's ducked a lot of fights. He likes to fight guys when they're not at their best. Let's be honest and unbiased. And not only that, as far as controversial fights, we all know that Floyd Mayweather literally lost to Luis Castillo. And at the end of the day, it was one of the biggest robberies in boxing. The whole world knows this. Even Luis Castillo still talks about it to this day, stating that the world and the fans know that I beat Floyd Mayweather. But let's keep it going. And the next one comes from my brother Melvin Bailey, and he states that one of the biggest lies in boxing is that Gervonta Stank Davis is a pay-per-view star. And the only star Gervonta Stank Davis is at Burger King. Because at the end of the day, when you see that these guys don't even want to release his pay-per-view numbers, Steven Espinoza is holding Tank Davis nuts, refusing to release the pay-per-view numbers. They don't want to leak it. They don't want those numbers getting out any kind of way because those numbers are garbage truck juice. We all know it. There's a price to pay for cherry picking. And not only that, they don't want to release the numbers, but then in this prior fight, the numbers somehow magically got out. See, we got to keep that same energy. We know Tank Davis is far from a pay-per-view star because men lie, women lie, but the facts don't lie.